Hello, folks. Okay, so how's everyone doing?
Great. 10 out of 10.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for watching my online lectures, the last two classes. Hope they were fun, especially when I was in Chicago and my video cut off halfway through. That was great.
You were in a fancy hotel room.
That was super fancy. It was not that fancy.
You had a whole kitchen.
Yeah, that was an accident, actually.
No.
I was like, there's nothing that nice in Chicago.
It was outside the city. Don't worry, it wasn't that expensive. Okay, now you've distracted me. Great. So I have a few questions. A, how is everyone feeling about flams?
I'm not very good at that.
Talk about flams. Okay, you hate them. That's okay. You'll learn to love the flam. Maybe. Okay, so first of all, what is a flam? Someone describe it for me. Don't show me, describe it, use words.
Low stick, high stick, same time.
Okay, that's surprisingly good.
Why
use many words when few words?
Caveman would eat
I
it.
think that I could just say a few words. Okay, good. What other musical thing are we sort of trying to emulate with the flam? A grace note. Okay, that's all I'm looking for. Cool. So flam is kind of our equivalent of playing a grace note. Does a slightly different, functions slightly different in context for a lot of percussion writing, but it's a very important, fill in the blank, rudiment. It's a very important rudiment. Great. Playing Mad Libs here. Okay, so let's do some flams. So can everyone stand up and just get set to play one good flam? Okay, I just want to make sure you heard me correctly. Get set up to play one good flam. Don't start playing like a jillion flams.
What's that? Start playing.
Start playing right now.
Okay, so what I find is that when I'm teaching, people's setup for flams are not great, and then their flams aren't great. It seems really simple, but that's what happens for like a long time, even when students should maybe know better. Anyway, so let's see you ready to play one good flam. One good flam. Okay, so first of all, when I say let's do a right-handed flam, okay, obviously we're using both hands, but a right-hand flam means what? The right hand is higher. The right hand is the main note, right? We have a grace note and a main note. The right hand is the main note. Okay, how close should the left hand be to the drum or the pad? Inch. So really, really, really close. Okay.
Good morning.
Even close. Yeah.
Marco, beat up.
No.
Wake up. Don't sneeze. I will ruin your flams. Okay. Okay, good. Great. Okay, now can everyone play one good flam? 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, and when we do it, let's make sure we come back up ready to play another right hand flam. So our left hand needs to do a tap, and our right hand needs to do a rebound stroke. Okay? Tricky. So the challenge here is not really the right hand, because everyone can do one nice rebound stroke with their right hand, yeah? The trick is keeping that left hand very low, leaving it low, right? So what a lot of people want to do, watch for 1 second. I see this all the time, even with college students. Okay, I'm set up for a flam, and now I'm doing this. We don't want that left hand to come back up. It just drops immediately. So it's an inch away from the drum, and it goes down to the drum, and it comes back up an inch. It doesn't go up to 5 inches, it doesn't go up to 3 inches. Inch away from the drum. Leave it there. Okay, one good flam. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, that was better. U4. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, good. U4. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, keep your sticks closer together. We'll talk more about this today. 1, 2, everybody, 2 flams this time. 1, 2, ready, go. Yeah, 2, sorry, I should have specified 2 right hand flams in a row. And where it starts is where it should stop. Right? Remember, keep the left hand low. 1, 2, ready, go. Again, 1, 2, ready, go. Don't let the left hand come up. Focus on your left hand this time. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay. Is everyone okay? Okay, do this. Sometimes it's helpful to isolate hands, right? Just like, I guess you do that in piano too, probably. Okay, everyone do 2 right hand rebound strokes. Just right hand rebound strokes in a row. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, is everyone like, great, I got this? That's fine now, right? Do it one more time. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, great. So that part's the easy part, right? And that part's going to be the easy part for your students too. Which means we need to focus our mental energy on the left hand, right? So now it's going to maybe feel a little silly, but isolate just the left hand. So it's basically just 2 very small taps. That's all we need. 1, 2, left hand. It's too high. Are you reading on your Apple Watch?
Yeah, my mom texted me.
Why are moms always... My mom did not text me when I was in school.
My mom does not leave me alone ever.
And my mom consistently calls me in band rehearsals.
Kids these
every
days.
week.
Okay. Left hand low.
Okay.
1, 2, ready, go. Spinny sticks. 1, 2, ready, go. Right. And this half, no, I didn't really specify, sorry. Just left hand. 1, 2, ready, go. Cool. Okay, combine them. On. 1, 2, ready, go.
Sorry, I can't count to 2 today.
You don't have to apologize. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, are we feeling a little better?
Success.
Yeah. So it's nice to just, this is the type of thing that it's good to just randomly walk up to the pad, do 1 good flam, right? And then you can walk away and do whatever else you're doing, In context, these are going to get a little more tricky, right? When we're not just doing flams, when we're playing, some rhythmic thing, and then we have to do a flam, it gets a little bit harder. But if we can't do just the flam in isolation, it's hard not to play. Okay, let's talk about drags now, just for a second, and we'll kind of return to them. A drag or a rough is?
It's the opposite.
The opposite? In what way?
So you, instead of being up here high, you start down low. You go up.
Okay, I know what you're getting at. Not quite. So what, I think when we went over this is an alternating flam, right? So we can talk about that maybe next time. I'm not so worried about alternating flams right now. A drag is the same thing as a flam. It's kind of the next category of rudiment. Maybe we can look at our rudiment sheets in a minute. But there's either 2 grace notes or a buzzed grace note. So instead of it just being a little tap with the left hand, it's a little buzz with the left hand. Okay, I just briefly introduced this on one of the lectures. So the important thing to think about it right now is that the setup is exactly the same. Okay, setup is exactly the same as the flam. And really the motion should be exactly the same. The only thing that happens differently is instead of your left hand doing a tap, it does a little buzz. And so therefore, it sounds like that. Listen for 1 second. One thing that happens with these is because it takes a little more something to do a buzz rather than just a tap, the students tend to make them 2 separate. So I hear a lot of this. Where it's really quite separate, where it's da, da, da. Okay, we don't want, it's not a rhythmic thing, it's not 2 sounds, it's 1 sound combined. Easier said than done, I know this, but it's important to start with that in mind as like what the end result is going to be. The main reason that's a problem is because when it starts to come up like in actual rhythmic contexts and whatever band repertoire you're playing, Students' time can get kind of wonky because they're trying to like do this thing that is a rhythm, or that's not a rhythm, but they're kind of turning it into a rhythmic thing, and then they get behind, and so it can cause some problems. One easy thing you can do as a band director, a quick fix, is if you're playing some sort of band repertoire and there's drags and it sucks, you can always have the student just play flams instead of drags because it's not going to change anything else about the music and it doesn't sound that differently. And even when I'm working with my students in progression lessons in college, like if you're having trouble with the drag, a lot of times what we'll do is substitute a flam to work on basically the dexterity they need to play the rest of the things in the passage, and then we can eventually change it to a rough or a drag. So just a tip. People tend to use the words rough and drag interchangeably, especially at this level. I'm trying to think if one of them is actually more correct than the other. I don't think so. I tend to say a drag for this and talk about a rough when we do 3, which we're not doing because you don't need to do that. It's not high school technique, but people sometimes say drag and sometimes say rough, and it essentially means the same thing. We'll come back to that. Okay, questions? Okay, let's talk about rolls. How are our rolls?
So not great.
Okay. So first of all, how do we execute a roll? What? Okay, how do we're talking about buzz rolls, because we're talking about snare drum right now. Don't just make sounds, tell me. You've got to talk to your students about how to do it, right? If your sixth grader's like, how do I play a buzz roll? And you're like, they're gonna cry.
Let's be clear.
Just do, Sammy. Just do it.
Damn it, Samuel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you just call me Samuel?
He said
How is
Sammy,
happening?
and it just went.
Sammy is the fictional child in this scenario. Completely unrelated to you, Sam.
It's also
Samuel.
Okay.
Anyways.
So, what are we gonna say?
You have 2 hits of one stick followed by 2 hits of the other stick. Start slow and speed up.
Okay, that's a pretty good start. I like that. So one thing I just want to clarify. So we have single stroke roll, right? Which we talked about, not doing that on snare drum basically ever. We get to it later. And then we have double stroke roll, which is what Alexis is describing, and then we have buzz roll. So it depends on the context for snare drum, which roll we're going to use, but for the most part, in like a concert band, band class, you're going to use a buzz roll, not double stroke roll. We will use a double stroke roll if it's like marching band related activities. So buzz roll, we actually want more than 2 bounces per stick. Okay. And one of the key things I want to talk about really early is that what students want to do is be tense and go fast. Okay, a roll, yes, typically is fast, but that's not actually what makes it a roll. And tension is the enemy of making the roll actually sound good. So we need to stay relaxed. Okay, if you're like squeezing the heck out of your sticks right away, I know why you're doing that, but it's going to be a problem long term. Okay, so close this right now. So when I start with this, like I showed on video, I'm just thinking about isolating one hand and really trying to get it to dribble or bounce. Okay, keep it going. That's good. That's good. Everyone's doing a really good job. It's okay. I'm just gonna say, I've seen much worse. I don't know if that makes you feel better, but it should. It's good. Okay. So that is the key to starting the roll. And then really all it is getting the hang of that, getting the hang of doing it with our other hand, and putting it together. If you break it down, it's not actually that complicated. Yes, it's difficult to do well and it takes a long time. right? If you just practice it for 30 minutes a day for like 3 years, it'll be like okay.
Perfect.
Okay, but you don't need to be able to do that, right? That's not your job as a band director. Your job is to give the students the tools to just get started and to help guide them through the first phase, right? Make them do the work, right? You can't do the work for them. Okay, so the right hands are looking good. Let's do just the left hand now. Same idea. The idea is to get as many bounces as you can, but as long as it's bouncing more than 2 times, we're okay. All right? And if you're like, I can't tell how many times it's bouncing, that's fine, I can. And everyone's getting at least 3, which is good. If you get 4, 5, or 6, that's better. But as long as you're getting at least 3, it's fine. Cool. So just a couple little things I want to avoid right off the bat, some typical things that happen. One is what I call the swimmer. Okay? We start working our roles, I see people doing some swimming. Okay, we don't want to do that. The arm just wants to go, we just want it to go straight up and down. Okay. I'm not totally sure why this happens, but I've seen it enough times to know it's like a common trick. Another thing I want to avoid that I see is everyone's hands actually look like pretty good, legit, bless you. But what I see a lot of times when I'm working with young students is like immediately all the other fingers are no longer involved with the stick. And that's another thing where I know why they're doing it, but we need to keep the fingers close to the stick at least, okay? So it's okay if your fingers actually aren't touching during a buzz roll. I'm not gonna go super into this other than to say that is actually pretty normal for the back fingers to come off. But if you do this, it's gonna be a problem. And if the students do this, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be, for some of them, it's gonna be easier to do this right away, which is why they do it, right? That's pretty much where all bad technique comes from, is because immediately it solves some kind of problem for them, but in the long run, it causes bigger problems, right? I'm sure that's true on all your instruments. I don't know what these examples are, I don't play your instruments, but for buzz roll, yeah. They want to take the fingers off, the back fingers off, they want to squeeze real hard with the thumb, and the pointer finger, don't do that. So keep the fingers close. Okay, let's now go back and forth, alternating. And really try to let it bounce as many times as you can. So one thing, some of this stuff is so hard to just describe. Stop for 1 second. So one thing, we're trying to avoid this sort of thing, right, where you're really killing the bounces. Like it is buzzing a little bit, you hear that? But it's more of a dead stroke where the stick just is staying on the head the whole time, right? We really want to actually let it dribble and feel nice. If you feel like you're squeezing in your hand, try not to do that. Go ahead and do it again. And if you feel like my right hand's pretty good, but my left hand sucks, like that's pretty normal. Good. Yep. Okay, so this is the foundation of the roll, and then essentially what happens is eventually we're just moving our hands faster, you know? Okay, so one thing I want to get into a little bit, we'll talk about this. Okay, we'll get on time. This isn't the only day we'll talk about this because it's a tough thing to sort of understand and implement. You guys look so tired today. I'm sorry. is, okay, the roll skeleton. Okay, the roll skeleton. So, the skeleton. No, not in a scary way. The roll skeleton is the underlying rhythm that we're playing while we're doing a buzz roll. Okay. So, a buzz roll can be any particular specific rhythmic length. It can be quarter note, it can be half note, full note, eighth note, whatever. Let's actually see here. Already talks about this. Yeah, if you want to sit down for a second. Better page than this one. Trying to see if there's a better example that I'm looking for. But okay, you all have books. Most people have books at this point.
I don't.
I know. Okay, if you have your book, can you open to page 34, 35? 34, 35. In your book. Huh?
She has a question.
Who has a question?
I just asked if I wanted to look on the post.
Can you share if you?
I can run upstairs and grab it. Okay. I'll be quick.
We have enough to at least all sort of look at it.
34A.
30,
34 or 34A?
sorry, 34 and 35, not 34A.
Mine says step 13.
Yes, it should say step 13. Step 13.
That's scary.
Okay, so everybody have this in front of them now? Okay, great. So this page is showing how some different rolls are notated. Rolling etude. I think we're going to do this maybe next week we'll do this. So go down to, actually let's just start with up at the top here, right? Okay, where we have sort of this rhythmic thing written under the paragraph in step number 13. So the first thing we see is just a 16th note rhythm, 1 E end and 2 E end. And then there's sort of this equal sign, right? It has the same rhythm but with slashes through all the note heads. We're all seeing this, yes? Great. Okay, so that is one notation we're going to see for rolls in percussion. That specific notation is typically associated with playing double stroke rolls, so we don't necessarily need to think too much about playing the double stroke roll right now, but the reason why it's important to look at that is because you can actually see the breakdown of what's happening rhythmically. So the rhythm itself is 1, right? 1 E and a 2 E. But if somebody wrote that out as a roll, I would still play the underlying rhythm the same, but the strokes I'm using are going to be buzz strokes instead of regular strokes, or double strokes instead of regular strokes, depending on the context. So the rhythm itself is 1 E and a 2 E end. But if I was going to play a buzz roll, I would just do the exact same thing, but all those strokes are buzzes instead of normal strokes. So it's still 1 E end and 2 E end. It's just, I'm playing a buzz stroke for da, 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 da. Okay, if it was a double stroke roll, it's the exact same idea. 1 E and a 2 E. I'm just doing 2 strokes for every note. Does that make sense as a basic concept?
Right.
Okay, cool. Go down to the very bottom of that page, where you see it says the 7-stroke roll, written as 16th notes and then as dotted 8th note. Okay, so what he's showing here is essentially 2 different ways to write the same thing. It's showing that we're rolling for the length of a dotted 8th note, which is essentially 3 16th notes, right? And you could potentially write it out as these 3 16th notes with a slash through the head. Or more likely you would write it out as a dotted 8th note with 2 slashes through the head. Well, again, we'll talk a little more about the 1 slash versus 2 slash versus 3 slash thing. Depending on the context, it could mean something important or it could not mean something important. But, so if the rhythm itself is 1E and a 2, as a double stroke roll, and as a buzz roll. But my hands are still playing the same rhythm in each of those occasions. I'm just doing something different with each stroke. Okay? You guys believe me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're really doing that. You don't believe me.
Not real witchcraft.
Okay, switch over to page 35. On page 35. So go down to the middle where there's this big old dotted half note. So how many counts are in the dotted half note? 3 quarter notes. Yes.
Oh, I just realized we asked a really easy question and my brain went, huh?
What is dotted half note? Cool, so dotted half note, 3 quarter notes, or 3 beats of 16th notes, right? I guess 12 16th notes, right? So you typically are only going to see it written, so he has the dotted half note, yes, dotted half note rule tied to a quarter note equals this thing. You're only going to see the 1 slash through the head really in rudimental and marching band context, but it's helpful to see it written out that way. So if I saw this in marching band, I'd play 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a, played it wrong the first time. Suck. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. But the rhythm I'm playing is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. I'm just playing double strokes for every time I hit the drum. Concert band, we want to hear buzz rolls. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. But again, the rhythm is just 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and same thing with the whole note, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Why are you laughing if we buzz? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Double strokes. Great. Everyone ready for rolls?
No, that's the
You lost me
That is
between.
the
They're
one.
all laughing and what's happening.
I lost you
And
where?
You guys don't exist, you can't hurt us.
Between step 1 and step 2, I'm not.
Okay. Are you feeling like I can't do that, or are you feeling like I don't understand that?
I can't. Sure.
That's fine. You don't need to be able to do it.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't do that. Oh, I like that.
Go,
Positive.
What a positive mindset.
Positive
We
energy.
don't do that here.
I'm glad one of us has it.
I'm dropping out.
Okay, don't drop it. You don't need to be able to do it. You just need to understand that that's what needs to be done. Okay? I promise. And the most important thing here is to understand the 16th note roll skeleton that's happening underneath most rolls. Okay. So for example, if someone just wrote out a quarter note roll tied to a quarter note non-roll, so what would we think about what's going on with the roll skeleton? What is the sticking for that? Yes, 1 E and a 2, right? So if we just played it as a rhythm, right, 1 E and a 2. Let's all stand up and do that. So right now, I just want to hear 1. I can do that. Fail. 1 E and a 2. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, everybody's got that, right? Now all we need to do is do those same buzzies that you were doing a minute ago. For diz, 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 da. Let's hear it. 1, 2, ready, go.
Yeah, that sounded the same as it did the time before.
Okay, so do you guys feel like I'm doing a little bit better than you?
Yes.
No.
Have you-
No.
Okay.
Certified expert.
Okay. Have you spent like hours a day for 20 years doing it?
Yes.
Okay, just think about that. Okay. What? I know it sucks. I honestly. honestly, guys, I'm even worse than you. I no longer have patience for learning how to do things. I get so annoyed, like, especially with like, Maddie's in my music recording class, and when I have to look stuff up when I'm like researching on my own, I get so frustrated. And there's all these YouTube videos, but I get too frustrated, like too impatient with the YouTubers, and I skip through like the 15-minute video, and then I've missed the like one thing that I actually wanted to know.
You don't need to make them that long.
I know.
It's their
Just
fault.
say exactly the things that I need to know.
Or they should like record the video and put it
Oh, I love the
on. I love
little
those
chapters.
Anyway, so all that is to say, I understand it's hard to not be good at something when you're already good at another like adjacent skill. You know, like you're all good at your instrument, and now it's like
That's really relative.
you can all play your instrument,
Yeah.
and now it's hard to have a music make, right? I get it. Okay. Let's try this as an exercise. 1 E and a 2. Buzz, 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 buzz. 1 E and a 2. Buzz, 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 buzz. 1 E and a 2. Roll 2. 1 E and a 2. Roll 2. Keep going. Don't speed up. Yeah. Keep the roll skeleton. Don't just. 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2, buzz, 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 4. 1 E and a 2, buzz, 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 4. Great. Now let's try 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Alright, so 2 beats of 16th notes in a quarter note, and then buzz, 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 3. I messed it up, but I heard you talk and say 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Okay, let's do that one time. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Buzz, 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 3. Professionals, let's do it. 1, 2, ready, go. Buzz, 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 3. Again. 1, 2, ready, go. Again. 1, 2, ready, go. Yes. Okay, that's the idea. I'd like to send you guys some exercises that are dealing with this sort of thing. I need to go find something. I think I know where I finally have all my books here, most of my books here, so that's helpful. Okay. Great, we're making good progress. I'll send some exercises and we'll work more on this. If it helps, this is probably the most challenging technical thing you're gonna have to do like all semester. Okay.
That doesn't feel a lot better.
That doesn't mean like it's gonna be easy the rest of the semester, but this is one of the more challenging like actual things to do with our hands.
Although it feels like it's gonna be a reoccurring theme.
Well, we're starting with snare drum because that's like we talked about this the first week. That provides a lot of foundational skills for other instruments. But we don't really use buzz rolls on other instruments. It's pretty much a snare drum specific thing.
Okay.
It's good to start with it and like work on it and know about it. But when we get to playing, you know, timpani, we're not going to use a buzz roll. We're going to use a single stroke roll, which has its own challenges, but technically is a little easier to do. Okay. Next thing, I know I'm reviewing a lot of kind of what I lectured on while I was gone, but I think these are like big, important concepts, and it's helpful to do them together in person. I find just talking about something for one class isn't always enough for us to like be good at the thing, right? So I just want to say that in case you feel like we already talked about this. Dynamics. So I talked a little bit about this at the end of the last lecture, right? So someone tell me what's using my hands a lot. Tanner, go. I didn't even finish my question, but
So, you showed off your little practice pad and you talked about how you keep everything to the middle to the top. And the closer to the top you get, the quieter usually is to play.
Yep.
And you told us to probably never play in the middle when you're practicing and stuff, and to play like kind of under the low chords.
yeah, okay, that's a good summary. Let's go over it. Again, I'm gonna do it with a real drum because that also just helps with the demonstration. Obviously with a pad, it doesn't really translate. I do think, we should probably do some stuff on real drums soon.
That's the worst transition. Like really already close to the other time, kind of and do it on the ground. That's like slightly different.
Challenging because we don't have enough, we don't have enough drums for everyone to play.
How long after the small family?
Uh,
That's cursed.
no, we can't do that.
I'm pretty sure it also break the drum head.
Let's try.
Okay, so first things first. Okay, why is it called a snare drum?
Because it has
Snares.
snares.
It has snares on the bottom, right? Okay, so one thing to think about is where we're playing on top of the drum, on the head that we hit, should always be above where the snares are, okay? Because we're trying to activate the snares. Does that make sense? So in other words, okay, we know there's this thin strip of snares running along the bottom. We can pretend that there's that same thin strip of snares running along the top head, and that's where we're playing, sort of. Okay, but keep that in mind. Mentally, that's the only playing zone we want to be using because we always want to be above the snares. However, as Tanner beautifully summarized, we only want to go from basically the middle to, you said the top, which is fine, but let's say the edge or the rim. Okay, the middle to the edge or to the rim. So yes, there are snares running here, basically on the half of the drum that's closer to your body. We don't really ever play there. Okay. Sorry, not good. No, it's because physically it doesn't make sense to play there because we have to do weird things with our arms basically to make that work. So we're always thinking about the middle to the edge or to the rim. Okay. So in that sense, there's basically just a pretty small rectangle of playing zone, right? If you think about the snares running from the edge of the rim, the middle, and that's the whole playing zone. So there's all this rest of the drum that we don't really want to play. Okay. If you're playing drum set or something, it's a totally different approach. But we're talking about like snare drum in the concert band, snare drum in the orchestra, and even like snare drum for marching band. This is pretty much how you want to approach it. Okay. For me, stick height and playing zone are intrinsically linked. Okay. So if someone asked me to play something pianissimo, someone asked me if the music that I'm reading says to play pianissimo, nobody's like, would you please play something pianissimo? Right, I'm playing, can you guys see-ish? I'm playing very close to the edge of the drum. Okay, I'm like a half inch from the very, very edge. Okay, I'm never playing fortissimo out here. I'm never going. Okay. One is it sounds bad, right? Did you notice how it doesn't sound very good? Yeah. So that's part of it. The snares are, without getting like too nerdy about this, the snares are going to activate differently on different parts of the head based on dynamics, and so it actually just works to play. It's automatically quieter when we play closer to the rim, but it also sounds better the way the snares resonate. It's not a problem to play quiet out there because we still are getting, right? We still get a pretty good tone, whereas if we play loud out here, it just doesn't sound good. Okay, the opposite is true with, we typically don't play dead center, but you can think of it as like a 1/4 inch off dead center for like very, very loud playing. I'm just gonna do it for 1 second. Right, so we get a nice full tone. So my stick height is big, right? But I'm also playing in the center. Very, very close to the center. Okay, if I had to play quiet. Okay, admittedly, that's playing quietly in the middle sounds better than playing loudly on the edge, right? Because we still get a nice tone, but it's much harder to play quieter in the center of the drum. And I actually do think that overall the tone for quiet playing gets better as we go further up. Okay, so we want to think about basically there being playing zones that gradually move the dynamics from forte, or just louder than forte, to pianissimo. Okay, so we can think about like fortissimo, forte, mezzo forte, maybe being like halfway in between. Mezzo piano being maybe like on the logo itself. Piano being a little further. Pianissimo. 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 Okay. Did you notice my stick height like gradually changes too?
Yeah.
Right, so when I'm playing very quiet, it's like very small. Doesn't sound good, but you get the idea. And when I'm playing fortissimo in the middle, it's much louder. In general, students are going to play too loud in band class, right? It's a drum, it's loud, it's easy to play loud like right away. So you can also kind of tailor this to your situation. It also depends on how big your band is, right? Like I know probably the programs are a little smaller here than like maybe what, like I went to a very big high school, like middle school, high school. You know, our band was really big. It was a little bit different. If you
What's
ask.
really big to you?
My high school is like 3,000 students.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
That's not even my.
A lot of
I was
us
gonna say,
graduate with less than my
that's like
Yeah.
well over 10 times the size of my town.
It was the biggest. It is the biggest high school in the state of Oregon. So it's not. So it is unusually large, but I would say like in the Portland area, like where I grew up, there's like 30 high schools that are at least 1,500 students.
Was there like 200 students in your class alone?
My class. Okay. Well, this is actually sad. My freshman class was 1,100, and our graduating class was like 500. It's a lot of problems. A lot of problems out there, guys.
I don't understand how you grow this.
Because they all graduated early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did not graduate early. It was actually like to turn serious for a second, like it was very sad. Like in my freshman English class, there were like kids who couldn't read and kids who just stopped coming to school, like when we were 14 years old. And it really bothered me because there's a lot of bad press from high school when I was there. But like I had a great education. Like my teachers were wonderful people. I still am in touch with some of them. They're really smart. They're really good educators. But like good educators can't fix everything that's going wrong with society, right? There's like bigger structural issues that they're not able to address. My district was really weird because the way it was laid out. Like it's not all tied to money, but a lot of it is. Like there were a lot of really poor families in my district, and like the reality is those families couldn't always be, like they couldn't help their kids get what they needed to do because they're like busy literally trying to survive, which I have a ton of respect for, and I understand, but like, it obviously sucks for those students, because they didn't get what they needed. Anyway, yes, a lot of problems with that school. But there was a very good band program, and it was a welcoming place for everybody, so it worked for me. Anyway, sorry, where was I at right before
We're
that?
talking about band sizes.
Yes, band sizes. Okay. So in my high school, wind ensemble, one of 3 bands in my high school, there was like 55 people in the band. So you can play like pretty loud, and that's not necessarily a huge problem. But if you're dealing with like a band of 15 students, and there's, or 10 students, and there's one snare drummer, like they can blow the band out of the water pretty easily, right? Because it's just much easier to play as a beginning snare drummer versus a beginning clarinet, right? So, something to be aware of. You're gonna you're gonna want to tailor your dynamics to the band situation, and you know, especially early on, I would maybe recommend like don't even tell them that they can play in the center of the drum. Like, there's just very few times when they're gonna need to do that at a beginning age. It's gonna be too loud. So you can, you know, if it's easier to like as a starting point, be like play halfway between the middle of the drum and the rim. You know, that's fine.
Lightning will strike.
Yeah,
If
It
you
would-
took it,
it will explode.
what's your drum?
Okay, I think we're out of time, right?
52.
52. Okay. Great. We'll keep going on Tuesday, and I'll probably send you another short assignment to do between now and then. Generally, videos were very good. Thank you for doing those. We'll probably do a few more of those as we go. It seemed like they were pretty easy for you all to put together, right? Like 30 seconds.